everybody, and welcome to the Parenting and Bonding with Children's Books podcast. I keep saying podcast, but it's more like a show. But here we believe that books are magic and they have the power to transform homes. On this podcast, we talk to the authors behind the magic to find out their true intentions behind the books. And I am so delighted that we are here tonight with Violet Lemay. Hi, Violet.
Hey, Quinn, thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited that you're here. And I have to ask, when you introduce yourself, do you lead with author or illustrator?
Oh, yeah, lately these days I just say author illustrator, but
Author, illustrator, okay.
but for years I was just an illustrator. So I always would say I'm a children's book illustrator. But
So when did you write your first, like you've been an illustrator for years, but when did you author or write your first book?
The first book I wrote and illustrated came out in 2013. So I wrote it in 2012. It came out in 2013.
Okay. And which title was that?
That's Isabella's Shoe Studio. It's a really cute book. It's not in print anymore, though, but it was a doodle storybook. So it was perfect for, kindergarten, first graders. It's a total little story, but every page had a drawing activity. So the book would invite you to draw in the book.
Okay.
I thought.
And that's your sweet spot, right? Like kindergarten, first grade, board books.
Board books. I love to do board books and picture books. Yeah, first grade, second grade. I mean, I've illustrated books for kids of all ages, even for adults. But when I'm writing, I usually write for little kids. Although I did just finish writing a book for older kids that have just been written. But everything I've published to date has all been for little kids.
Okay. Guys, I'm so sorry. I'm so excited to have Violet here that we just started. Let me give you an introduction to Violet so you know who we're speaking to. But okay, so Violet Lemay has illustrated 44 books, 6 of which she also wrote. Her clients include HarperCollins, Penguin Random House, Scholastic, Duo Press, Imagination Press, there is no I in front of that, and Highlights. So her latest book, Let's Be Friends, from Harper Festival 2021, won Book Fest First Place Award for Diversity in Children's Books. It's a lift the flat book, right? That's
It
filled
is.
with all of her illustrations are warm and lively. If you go to her Instagram, I'm going to show it on the screen here, but for those of you that may just be listening, it's Violet Lemay, VioletLemay. You will be just delighted to see her feed, just the illustrations. I just fell in love as soon as I saw. I was like, where has Violet been all my life?
Oh, thanks, Quinn.
Just wonderful. So this board book, Let's Be Friends, can we talk about this one?
Sure.
I'm gonna show it. Yay!
There it is. Find the camera. Yep, that's it. Sure.
I love it. I love, of course, I mean, you won an award for it, the diversity of it all, but not even just seeing kids with different skin colors, but personality is just abounds on the cover. Like when you look at the kids, you see like you want to give them names immediately.
Well, actually, I do know some of these kids.
Okay.
I made up a lot of them. Many of the kids in the book are fictional. There we go. I can't sort of figure out this camera.
Oops, we can see it quite well. I can give you we can see it quite well.
Some of these are little friends of mine. Yeah, my husband works at a school, a boarding school. And so a lot of the people who live at the boarding school are other faculty and they're little kids. And so many of the kids on the cover here, because the cover was the last art I made for the book. And I had already illustrated the rest of the book when we moved to the boarding school. And so the cover was the only art left to do. And then I met all these little kids. And so I scrambled to include them, as many of them as I could on the cover.
That is so sweet.
Yeah.
So does the cover usually come last?
No, I guess it depends on the project. A lot of times the cover is the first thing you do because the publisher needs it for their catalog, and they're planning the season well in advance of publishing the book. So you typically make the cover art and then move into the rest of the book. But I can't remember why with this one, the cover was last. That's the way it went with that one.
Okay. So what is Let's Be Friends about?
Oh, I'll show you. Let's Be Friends is basically about how you can be friends with anybody, even when you have differences between you. So it starts with simple differences like here's a cat person versus kind of a dog person. And the question is always, can they be friends? And then you lift the flap to reveal the answer. It's always some version of yes. So can a cat person and dog person be friends? Woof, yep, meow. Of course they can be friends. And then it goes through more sort of fluffy topics like flavors of ice cream. And then if you're silly versus serious in your fashion, can they be friends? Indeed, of course they can be friends. Underneath it all, people are people. And then it gets into bigger issues like what your talents are, whoop, and where you come from, what part of the country, where on the globe do you come from? Can friends come from anywhere? And the answer is yes, of course. Then it moves on to, what kind of house you live in. Because when I was a kid, my family lived in a house kind of like this one. Whoops, let's see here. This one. Yeah, and I was a little wary of kids who lived in apartments or just houses that looked different than mine for some reason. I don't know why, such a silly thing. So I definitely wanted to include that in the book. And you can see the little tree house and the nest there. And then when you lift the flap, it's a giant tree house. Oh, I meant to say birdhouse. Then you lift the flap and it's a tree house. Then it moves on to different ages, what ages you have in your family, grandpa, mom, baby, brother, and sister. Can friends have different ages? And then when you lift the flap, the brother and sister have grown up and they say, yes, we all need each other. And when I started reading this book out loud to classrooms, after it was published, I realized the ages is good, but I also could have mentioned just family, like you can be friends with people in your family, of course, especially for little kids, but I just didn't think of it at the time. And boys and girls, can boys and girls be friends? And let's see, where's the flap? Oh, yes, both make terrific friends. There they are. Then it moves on to gender issues, any kind of kid. And there they all are. And then how we look, all of our different textures and colors. And can we be friends? You think by now my fingers would have figured out where these flaps are. Let's see. Oh, there they are. Yes, friends come in all colors. And then religion, which I was very, very happy to have this in the book because this book was inspired by, I was living in New Zealand when I wrote this book, and that was when the Christchurch mosque shootings happened. And this book was sort of my response to that, is that we should all just be friends together. So then there they are at the end, everybody's all together. When it comes down to it, we're all just people. We're all worthy of friendship. And friendship equals love. And that's that little book. Let's be friends.
Thank you for giving us a tour through the book. I really enjoyed it. And I think that amongst all the themes that parents ask for when they ask for like book recommendations and stuff like that, it's always about how do I talk to my kids about friendship. And so for you to show us a board book, on friendship, it just goes to show, starting as early as possible, talking to our kids about accepting differences and, different walks of life and, different talents, like even the little things that parents may take for granted and may not even think about. I think it's so good to start as young as possible with our kids talking about that.
I think so too. That was one thing that drew me to your podcast, actually, is that connection between the parents and the children in reading, that reading brings you together with your child. And the book is like a springboard for conversation, And that's what I was hoping for with Let's Be Friends, was that it could be, a starting point for chats with your little ones as you lift the flaps and all that, about all those good things.
It definitely is. I mean, when I look through the pages of your book, there's so many questions that we can ask our kids as we're going through the book. And I can see not even finishing the book in one sitting because
Oh man.
a lot of parents are like a little intimate. Yours is a board book, but when I talk to parents who may not be reading to their children right now, and I ask them why, and they're like, my kid won't sit for a whole book, or
Mm,
I can't keep them engaged. But I tell them you don't have to finish a whole book in one day. In one
good point.
you can read. I say that the chat that comes from the book is oftentimes more important than the book itself. Sometimes it's hard for me to say that in front of an author, but I mean it. Like,
No, I agree.
yeah, you read the page and you just ask a simple, not like a SAT level question, but just like,
Mm-hmm.
do you have friends like that at school? Do you
Mm,
have a friend who really loves art and you love music? Which friend is
mm,
that? And you can learn so much about your kids' friend. And that's important. Like, to know who your children's friends are is so important. And as parents, we often negate that when they're in their younger years, and we only get a little nervous when they get a little older and they start to have
mm.
their independence. But it's important at every age.
Oh, it is. And what a blessing to have little kids who you can talk to them about all that stuff, and they get older. My son is in university now, and
Oh,
it's just a completely different ball game as they get older. It's
yeah.
just, oh my gosh, the story time with your kids is to be treasured for sure. And like you were saying, any little spark in a book that starts a
Mhm.
conversation, that's the treasure. That's the great stuff right there.
Yeah,
I
it's
agree.
beautiful. I remember when I
Mm.
first started reading with Aiden, I would get a little frustrated with all the questions. Like, can we just get through this? We
Mm.
can't
Oh
get through.
yeah.
Like, hold your questions until the end, like it was like a presentation at work or something. Hold your questions until the end, and then the more, I started looking into reading and the benefits of reading, because I just read to him because I love to read. Like, I've always been an avid reader. I wasn't
Yep.
thinking about all the benefits and all the magic that could come from story time when I first, not when I first started reading to him, but when he was old enough to start asking questions.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that's really good. I know you have a few other books with you today. Can you
I
show
do.
us what you got?
Sure. This one is my second most recent book, Healthy, Healthy, Love, Love, Love. And it's also published by Harper. This one is about staying healthy and being loving at the same time. so, so yeah, staying healthy and just being kind to yourself and to your friends and the whole thing. It's about self-care and yeah. I wrote it right at the beginning of the pandemic. This book, actually, I wrote because my son had been sick, very sick. He's fine. He was completely
Mm,
fine. But
okay.
yeah, he had a little health scare, not anything to do with COVID. And
Yeah.
I was wanting to sort of channel my experience with him and him being sick into a book. And I had written sort of a more literal thing.
Hmm.
And my agent said, "No, why don't you sort of channel this into what this became?"
Yeah.
So that was the inspiration for it. And then here you have it. Oh, this is my favorite image from this book, which is this big park scene.
Oh, I
Let me go
love it.
sliding it in. There it is. You can kind of see the whole thing. Yeah, but it's just a book about, how we get sick and how to take care of ourselves and each other when we're not feeling well and how to stay healthy and all that.
Yeah. So for those that may not have seen the pages, if you're just listening, we saw some pages on the importance of hand washing, very diverse, colorful, beautiful, lively images. We saw a page, it said people are lovely, germs are not.
Germs are not.
Love
Yeah.
that.
Is that how it begins? Oh, yeah, that's how it begins. People are lovely, germs are not. Ooh, there it
Yes.
is. People are lovely, germs are not. They look cute under a microscope, but germs make people sick. Boo, germs.
Boo germs. I love
Yeah.
it. See a kid saying that back as soon as you say it. Boo germs. Boo germs. Okay,
This
so
is a cute one that oh, nope, go ahead,
no,
Quinn.
we're good. We want to see the books.
This one I illustrated a couple, maybe 3 years ago by now. I forget. It came out in 2019. This one is for infants. It's called Tummy Time Happy Baby. It's part of Duo Press's Tummy Time series. They have, I think, 3 or 4 of these now. But this is such a cool book for newborns. It's like a really nice shower gift. It folds out like an accordion so that it stands up on its own, and you can put it on your carpet and let your little baby practice tummy time. And there's mirrors and stuff, so you can look in the mirrors. And one side is high contrast, which is wonderful for infants because their eyes are just developing. These didn't exist when my son was a baby, but ever since I've illustrated a few high contrast books, and I always give them to the new moms in my life, and they just can't believe how much their babies love those high contrast books, because when they're just tiny, their eyes can't get enough of it. I don't know, it's fun. I'm so pleased that I've been able to illustrate a few of those, because it's just fun illustrating books for tiny babies. But that's a cute one for sure.
Definitely.
And then this one, which is also from Duo Press, is another cool book that has a die cut here. So it's called I Can Be Like, a Book of Masks of Inspiring Women. And when you open the book, it becomes a mask. So they're all different women on every time you turn the page, it's a different famous woman from history with a quote. This is Frida Kahlo, and the quote is, "Feet, what do I need you for when I have wings to fly?" So it's all different inspiring ladies. And I don't know, in my experience, toddlers love this book. Here's Michelle Obama.
Love it.
If ever you wanted to pretend to be Greta Thunberg, this is the book for you.
Wow. So, when was this book published?
This one is 2000. I can't see it on here now. It's 19 or 20, 2019 or 20, I think. Okay. Yeah. Yep. And I have just one more, which is Babies Around the World Dancing, which is such a cute one. This was written by Tamara Barker, and it just goes around the world showing little babies. Ooh, how do I do this way? I'm doing the dance from that part of the world. So
we see babies belly dancing
from all over. And it's just such a fun one for toddlers, because, when you're reading it to them, of course, you have to try to figure out the dance also.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so cute. And yeah, it goes all around the world. Shows Native American dances for North America. And then at the end, it has all the babies together, all dancing together. So it's a cute one. The first one in this, there are 2 books in this series, Babies Around the World, the original one. Just a few months ago, Reader's Digest named it the 4th best children's book of all time, which is pretty crazy.
Wow.
I know. That. It's a cool list to be on. It was quite a shocker. That book is a little bit older. I think it came out in 2017 or 2018, something like that. So it was nice. That one was written by
Do they let you know why they chose it?
No, they didn't even know we were on the list. A friend of mine saw it and sent me an email or something, or she messaged me and said, "This is your book. You're on this list." So it was just shocking to see it.
Yeah. Thank you for showing us the books that you have with you. I mean, there are like 44 of them. Did I get that number right? So no way that we can go through them all in this short episode, but so awesome to be able to see your work. When you write or when you illustrate, what do you think you're trying to get across?
Well, of course, it depends on the story, but my main mission is I just want every child who's looking at that book to feel loved and treasured, really, So the books I've written aren't stories. They just show a bunch of different kids and different scenes. And so I try to make them as diverse as possible so that everyone can see themselves in the book. And I just we all do, parents, I just love kids. And I feel like I have this cool job where I get to, make books that you enjoy with your child, that a parent or a caregiver and their child share together. And so I want it to be a special experience, as special as possible for them. And I just want the love to be in there and them to feel love. That's what I'm thinking.
I love that you lead with love. I hear that out of your mouth so often. It's really a beautiful thing. And I think that I mean, I come across a lot of books, a lot of authors and illustrators and in my work just in general. And I don't know, you can feel a difference when you come across an author with a mission that is really for our children so they can be seen, feel seen and feel loved, like you said. And it really, really helps to contribute to a beautiful moment between parent and child when we sit down for story time and we open a book and our children can see themselves on the pages. So that's a beautiful thing. Thank you for that, Violet.
Oh, thanks, Quinn.
So, what I know that there's probably going to be a lot of authors that are watching today and loving your work. How is there a way that they can work with you, or how do you work?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I am part of an illustration agency, MB
Okay.
Artists. Yep. So, for example, if a client wants to work with me, because of the arrangement I have with my agency, you have to
Hmm.
go through the agency to get to me. But on my website, the contact, how you're on your website, you have a contact page. My contact page takes you directly to the agency. So if there's anyone who wanted to work with me, you just go through them and then they'll get in touch with me. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I have an exclusive arrangement with her. So that's the only way. That's the only way.
Well, I think that that's a wonderful thing. So her website is violetlemay.com. And for anybody who's just listening on audio, it's VIOLETLEMAY.com. I hope that you guys heard that well. I didn't want to say V is for Violet, I is for, but it's violetlemay.com. I feel like we spend a lot of time looking at the books, which is a beautiful thing, and time is just like flying by. And so I want to know, I guess we can go back to Let's Be Friends. You
Sure.
talked about what the inspiration was behind that book. You mentioned that you live in a boarding home, a boarding school.
Boarding school. Yeah, we live in Malaysia. My husband works
Okay.
at this cool international, it's an American school, but it's an
Okay.
international boarding school. So the kids come from all over to this campus in Malaysia, and we live on the campus. So it's extremely diverse. It's weird. It's actually like living in this book. Let's Be Friends. It's like
Okay.
living in like a little mini United Nations. Everybody's here from all over, which is really cool.
That is so special. So do you draw
Mm.
a lot of inspiration from the school you're at now?
I do. Even if it doesn't come out literally, I just walk around and get inspired because there are
Yeah.
just kids everywhere. And, like I can eat lunch in the dining hall with all the kids. And depending on what time you go down, it's different ages of kids because there are kids from pre-K all the way through high school here. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's just inspiration is just never very far away. It's
Yeah.
sort of ideal for me, really, because just always surrounded by all these beautiful children. It's so fun.
Now, do they know that they have an illustrator on deck? Like,
They do. They do. I get invited to a lot of classrooms. And this time last year, I did a big presentation for the whole school about what it's like to be a children's book author, illustrator, and all that. So most of them know. I just went to talk to a little class. I think it was a preschool class a couple days ago and read Let's Be Friends to them. And it was so fun. It was just so fun. There were just like 5 or 6 of them in the class. And
yeah,
oh, it was just wonderful. I was just on a cloud all day after that.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking, and I know, like, I'm in a bunch of Facebook groups where teachers are like looking for authors to come to their
Mm.
classes, and so to have one in house that
Yeah.
you get to say, "Hey, did you have time on Friday? Can you come
Yeah.
by?"
I know, and it's great for me too, because all I have to do is walk out my door and down the hall, down an elevator, and it's like takes
Yeah,
3 minutes to get there, and then I just walk back. Because usually, those things, it's just time consuming. It's so much fun. It's like
yeah.
definitely the main perk of this job, I think. But
Hmm.
yeah, it could take a half a day or a day just to do the whole thing. And here it's just
So
so easy.
convenient. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so easy. So
Hmm.
when you do like an author visit, I guess, well, yeah, it's
Yeah.
an when we because when you think of an author visit, like when I talk to other authors and they do one, it's like a whole thing, like paperwork ahead of time, like
Mm.
they have to handle all these things. But okay, so when you do one, what do you think is your favorite part of an author visit?
My favorite part of an author visit. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. My favorite part is just when the kids respond to the books, I guess. And also, usually for my books, for each one of them, I make a little art activity. So we're always doing some kind of art activity after. And that's just fun for me, just being able to interact with the kids.
Yeah.
You know, because when you're reading the book, you're just sitting there for, I mean, sometimes for years in isolation, making this thing. And it's, you know, it's kind of lonely. And then getting out there with your audience and mixing up with them, interacting with the kids is definitely the best part.
Yeah, that made me think of something when you said that, because I remember I talked to an adult illustrator. I don't know what to call it. You can fix me if I'm saying it wrong. But she illustrates cover art for adult fiction, right?
Okay.
And I said,
right.
well, what's your process like? Do you have to read the book? And she's like, no, I don't read the books. And that's so different from a children's book illustrator, because you really have to get into the words and the intention of the story, right? And then
It's so true.
Yeah, it made me think, like, now when I go to like Barnes and Noble, I'm wondering how disconnected the cover the cover is from the rest of the story.
It's interesting. Yeah, I have illustrated a few book covers over the years for books for older kids and adults, and it is like that. They just sometimes send, because sometimes the book isn't written yet, you know. They're still working on it, or it's being edited or whatever. So sometimes you'll get a few sample chapters or just a brief, just an explanation. Or sometimes they just tell you, this is just what we want. So just draw this and put it on the cover. So, yeah.
That's interesting. So what's your process like as an illustrator?
Oh, right. Okay. So if I am, for example, illustrating a book that someone else wrote, then they send me the manuscript, and the they who sends it to me is usually an art director or a designer from the company. So I get the final manuscript. It's usually final. I'll edit it and everything. And sometimes there's art direction in there. Sometimes the designer has already figured out the pagination. So they'll send you like a PDF with sort of like, looks like blank pages, and they show you where the text is going to go and how much space you have to fill in with art and some art direction. So you know, you have some idea in mind of what they want to see on the page. And so then you send sketches. Sometimes there's no art direction though. Sometimes they just want you to do your own thing. And that's fine too. So yeah, then I do sketches and send those in. They have their own separate deadline.
Yeah.
And then the sketches get circulated from among different people at the publishing company. And then they, you know, in a timely manner, then they submit feedback back about the sketches. Then you send revisions for the sketches, and it goes through the whole same process. And you keep going through that until the sketches are all approved. And then you start making the final art. So you have a certain amount of time to do that. I make my final art on an iPad. I do everything actually on an iPad. I draw with a digital pencil. And and in the end, send off all the art and just fingers crossed, you know. That's pretty much it.
When did you start drawing? Did you always know you wanted to be an illustrator?
Well, I always was drawing. I didn't understand what illustration was until later. I got into show business, I guess, in high school. I started making costumes and scenery for all the plays, and then I studied that in university at a theater conservatory. I got my degree in theater design. I moved to New York City, and I was designing stuff for years. I lived there for 5 years and did that.
Wow.
And then I realized, this isn't really making me happy. This isn't what I wanted to do, because there was very little drawing involved, actually. And I like to draw. Anyway, I ended up going back to school and getting a degree in illustration. And even then, I started out as an editorial illustrator working for adult stuff, magazines and newspapers. And then eventually decided I'd rather do children's books. And so I had to switch agencies and all that. And that was about nearly 10 years ago. And so I've been doing pretty much exclusively children's books for about the last 9 or 10 years.
Okay. So what made you know that children's books was what you wanted to do?
Having a son, having a child, for sure. I had my son, and oh yes, just looking at all the beautiful art and all the books I was reading to him, I just thought, oh, why am I spending all my days illustrating this dry, you know, financial stuff for the Wall Street Journal? I'd so much rather be drawing all this cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I know a lot of the authors that come across on the show started to write their book like while they were on like maternity leave or
Mm.
just sitting with the baby. They would get an idea for a story when they were up late at night, mom
Yep,
insomnia. And so they
that's right.
were like, I need to write this down. So goodness, children are
Mm-hmm.
such an inspiration.
Aren't they? Yes.
Yeah. Violet,
Mm.
I want to thank you so much for being here with us today. Really
Thank you so
appreciate.
much, Quinn.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Really appreciate your time and all the work you're putting out into the world. Congratulations on all of your awards. I'm looking forward to seeing more work from you. I know there's so much more coming.
There is. Yep. Keep your eyes open for it. New stuff coming.
Yeah. Is there anything else on your heart to share about anything?
Oh, well, just read to your kids. Kids love to be read to, and just keep reading to your children. They grow up way too fast.
Yeah.
So just treasure that time. And I have a bunch of free stuff on my website, which Quinn has mentioned the name of. It's violetlemay.com. If you get into the website and look at the menu bar at the top on the far right, it says links. If you click on links, you can connect with my newsletter that way or any of my blogs. But also there's a little button you can click that says free activity kits. And so if you click on that, there's a bunch of PDFs you can download. There's one for almost every book I've ever done. So it's just, you just scroll through and you can download them and print them. And it gives you like a little free activity to have with your child, which can be nice to do. If, like, for example, if you're reading Let's Be Friends and you want to talk more about it, or maybe have a play date with a bunch of kids and it would give you some structure for your play date. You could just, do a little Let's Be Friends activity, whatever like that. But they're all free and they're all there. So help yourself.
Sounds like fun. If you're watching on video, guys, I'm struggling with my eyes right now. I'm so sorry. But yeah, head over to Violet's website. It's so adorable. I mean, as soon as you go, you just be like, oh, when you see her website. So please go and check it out. Like she said, it's violetlemay.com. For anybody who's just listening, it's violetlemay.com. Go and check it out. Make sure you visit her Instagram. It's the same thing, Violet Lemay. And I think that's all we have for the evening, right?
Thanks so much, Quinn. Yep, that's it. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much, Quinn.
No problem. Bye, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.